So g'day, Ben. How are you going?
Yeah, really well. Thank you, Kieren. Yourself today?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. So today we're going to be reviewing some of the All Blacks gym sessions. So we got a couple of videos that we're going to watch when they've hit the gym in Auckland, Gold Coast, Dublin, I think as well, and one other as well. So it's going to be really exciting. With these sessions, we don't have any context behind it. We're just watching and just seeing what they do. If there's anything they can do a little bit better, and just giving some comments as well of why they're doing that particular exercise.
Yeah, I think that's really important that we talk about context. We don't know what day of the week they're training, what the goals of each athlete are, whether they're in rehab or full participation, whether they're actually even in the game day squad that week as well. So without that context, it makes it a little bit harder, but we can just talk about the ideas and the methodology behind things that they're doing, because it's very similar to a lot of elite rugby teams as well.
So we just watched the first 50 seconds. What was your thoughts on that, Ben?
Yeah, look, I really do like when you're traveling that you try and get a big open gym like that. I think it creates a really good opportunity for lots of people training together. You can see it's probably a little bit more designed around the lower body session. So I'd say it's a bit early in the week, and there's usually some giveaways there, like eccentric hamstring work being done and back squat. You tend to do that at the beginning of the week, far enough away from your game day that you can get some stimulation, and really far away from your future game day. So I really like it, particularly some of the stuff that I like there is a single leg box jump, the reactive RSI jump or the depth jump, and the weighted medicine ball jump. So a lot of people think that you just do strength and then you go into a power cycle. You're actually always working on everything, and that's a good indication of the breadth of that training session. What are your thoughts?
Totally. So yeah, they were using a very wide open space gym, so it probably looked like a CrossFit type of gym, but did have everything that they needed. And just like you said, it was looking like a lower body focus. You had some back squats, some single leg box jumps, and those depth jumps as well. People might not have been paying as close attention because Richie Mwanga was in front of, I think it was Rieko Ioane, doing those reactive jumps. And it's cool just to see the different variations in their program. So one person could be doing a double leg box jump or a single leg box jump, and another one's doing more reactive as well. And yeah, it was just cool to see the Nord board being used, and Rieko Ioane doing some work on the assault bike as well. So he might be topping up on his conditioning that he might have missed over the weekend, or it's just part of his program to get a bit fitter or something along those lines. And again, we don't really know the context why he's doing it, but yeah, some players will do that during the week.
Yeah, and it could even just be a warm-up for the session as well, because you think video editing, it could be done in any order. You'd think that they'd be doing the jumping component before they do their lifting, or they'd have that contrast with each other as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I did like the skipping in there as well. I think skipping is one of those underrated movements, just that low-level plyometric stuff, just getting some good stiffness and, just getting those calves, those baby cows working.
Yeah. That lower leg stiffness is really important for your speed and all field sport athletes for sure.
So we just watched the rest of that first video. So what were your thoughts on that one, Ben?
Yeah, again, it looks at like definitely the continuation of that training session. I do like the skill work being done as well. So you think some of the rest of your sets, or it could be part of the circuit there, you're actually working on your skills. So, if you're getting an extra 20 to 30 passes in each day compared to your competitors, they're actually really nailing that skill in a low, low pressure environment. So they can just really break that skill down to the necessary task of passing. Look, some of those lifts, if you're a zealot in terms of lifting technique, you'd fix things up. But then again, you don't know, these people might not have been doing these lifts for a while. This might be their first crack at these lifts in a long time as well. It's interesting with PJ's power clean, as going from the floor. A lot of stuff we tend to do these days is from hang positions, but it makes perfect sense because he's trying to get, say, force from the ground up as a halfback. It's not mimicking his halfback pass, but it's allowing him to be in that low position and develop power from the ground upwards as he would with a halfback pass, although not completely mimicking. What's some of your thoughts there?
Yeah, I love the passing skills with Aaron and Bowden, just getting those 1%ers every day, every time that they can. They got their hands on the ball, working in different positions, like they're on their knees or in a half kneeling position, and just working on their arc. And the way that they play these days, like you can just tell why those extras have paid off so much in their careers. So that was really cool. Did see some more skipping, which was really nice. And yeah, just like you said, with the power clean, it's not perfect, but he's getting it up there, and he does it well enough for a rugby athlete. And it doesn't have to be picture perfect like you see someone doing a proper weightlifting in the Olympics. He just needs to be safe, needs to know how to push force into the ground and then properly catch it in that front rack position. So I would say he's doing it well enough for rugby. There is some things we would definitely work on, but I think he did do a pretty good job. You saw Damien McKenzie there doing some weighted chin-ups, strapping some weight to his body, and that was really cool to see when he was at the end there. He didn't give up, and he got that extra rep, or that last rep of that set as well. And I think another one was really cool was Sam Kane just doing some side planks or a band row. Side planks, just a basic movement, but if you do it really well, you're going to get your bang for your buck. It doesn't have to be these big fancy movements or anything like that. He's just getting the basics done, doing them really, really well.
Yeah, and having that band there really forces you to actually adjust to different loads. So he's trying to maintain that position while that band is a rowing action. So again, he has to adapt to that situation. And with those bands, they're a bit more springy. It's not like a weight. So yeah, I really like that. And also, if you're doing it yourself, if you're focused on another task, you don't notice how long you're doing it as well, because you've got something else distracting your mind. So it's quite good when you can do that with exercises, for sure.
Totally. All right, so now we've moved on to the All Blacks hitting the gym in Dublin. So straight off the bat, you see some deadlifts. I think it was by Angus. I don't think that was Tyrell. They look very similar in the camera just there. So he's moving the weight quite easily and powerfully. I'm not the biggest fan of doing the bounce at the bottom. I like my athletes to reset just for a second and then go again. you could say it looked like he's doing an RDL, but he was doing a proper deadlift, I would say. So yeah, not the biggest fan of that. But saw Bowden Barrett doing some hang cleans, and he was doing really, really well. He was fast. He got a really good front rack position, which is at the top there, and it's good for shoulder health, which I'm really liking to see. And we saw some really fast efforts on the watt bike as well. So that could be part of their power routine, or they're trying to get some Ks in the legs as well, or just some extra fitness. But I think that's just a great way to mix up your training as well. So also, what were some of your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. You're seeing some hang clean, so it's really good that you've got this really short impulse to create that force, and that's what you want, particularly you think of 10 and your backs in those positions. It's sudden good impulse. He did a really good job of that, and with a short little movement, he moved that weight quite well. So look, it was 80 kilos. I'm sure he can do a lot more, but you don't need to go super heavy if the intent is speed. So we've got to remember that it's not always heavy lifting. Sometimes it's lifting decent weight really quickly is the goal. Yeah, look, the deadlifts, to be honest, he looks like he was cruising that. That could have even been a warm-up, and he's not even doing much. Like, it looks strong for a lot of people, but I'd say it was just get this, first or second set in so I can get to the serious stuff. Yeah, that's what I was saying. What's going on there for sure. Yeah, but we don't know the context. But yeah, that wasn't heavy. That was him warming up and sort of scratching his bottom as he goes to work, as we do sometimes.
Which is just scary to see how strong some of these guys are.
Yeah. And I liked it. It's at the elite level, it's probably no different from club level if it's done well. There's just certain things that you have to do and do them well. So you've got lower leg strength, you've got your power there, you've got some potentially warming up or extra efforts on a walk by. That might be someone that's got a little niggle that week and might not be able to make a training session running, so they're getting some extra fitness, or they've missed out on some game time, so they're trying to do a non-impact way to actually get some conditioning as well. Again, it's hard to know without the context. You started seeing some big guys with their the back squat there. So you're starting to see, the props, they shift some serious tin, and they like doing that regularly because it makes them feel confident and strong, and they do need it. Look, on the bench, like some people would be there, the technique's not there. I think it's perfect. I really like it. Look, it's a narrower grip. You think of fending from the front, that type of stuff. It's a really good position. And for him, that wasn't too heavy. You could see there was no spotter required as well. So, yeah.
If we go back to those back squats, as you just said, lifting some tin of those forwards, can you explain to listeners what that little string was hanging off the bar there? If you didn't pay attention.
Depending on the brand, it's called a linear transducer. So basically, it's a little cord that is tethered to a device that measures velocity. From that, it's Bluetooth to an iPad or something like that, and they're actually looking at velocity. So they're tracking that there. So, and it can be used in a lot of ways. There's velocity-based training, which is checking how fast you move things. So what it can be used for is to drive intent of speed, or in drive intent of you've got more reps in you. By the looks of that, in that part of the season, it would be set at a certain speed. They don't want the velocity to go under a certain mark because they don't want to tax them too much, or they want them to shift that tin quickly. So it makes it more strength speed type of work. And it's just really good feedback to you on the intent. And guys get competitive with that. And if they're using GymAware, they've probably got some longitudinal data on that people as well. So they'll understand how they're pulling up each week by the velocity that they can produce at certain weights that they've been doing for a while.
That's great. And yeah, just as you touched upon on the bench press, I thought it was really good as well. And I think a common mistake that people or athletes do on the bench press is not staying locked in. And Sam was really locked in there. He wasn't moving at all in terms of too much to side, and his hips weren't coming up or anything. He was pushing everything into the ground to push that barbell up. And that's what really good technique is. It's not just getting the bar up and you're sort of wiggling to get it up at that last sort of part. So I would say really stay locked in when you're bench pressing so you can punch that weight up. And I think Sam was a really good example of that.
Yeah. And it's to be elite, you have to love and enjoy and nail these basics. Okay. A lot of it isn't new and fancy. It's just consistency, and they do it really well, and they're consistent. That's what makes a big difference. It's not, a big effort one week and not so for the next two. It's consistent efforts all the time.
So stopping the video there, we saw Richie doing some hang power cleans and resetting after each set. So when you are doing that exercise, you don't necessarily have to then catch it again once you drop it off the shoulders. If you, especially lifting some tin there, 100 kilos, I find that that's really impressive to be able to do 100 kilos, moving that bar with intent and speed. That's awesome. And yeah, you don't have to re-grip the bar after you've dropped it off the shoulders. If you want to, just let it fall to the ground, pick it up, and do it again. So I thought that was really good and great technique, and he's just powerful, and you can just see that on the field when he's out there. He's just so explosive. I think the other thing that
sorry, the idea of the resetting, you're getting good intent each time, so it's like a jumping exercise where you reset. So for him, it's a power execution. So you want intent, you're not inducing fatigue. So yeah, like you said, resetting is the way to go for that type of activity for sure.
For Bowden, it was maybe it was a bit lighter, whereas for Richie, when they were starting to get to those working sets, that's when they're like, yep, we'll catch it and then drop it down to the ground.
Yeah. And if things do go wrong with that type of lift, it's with the lowering down of that weight like that as well. So I'm happier for athletes to let it bang, hit the ground, reset, rather than I want the power going vertically. We're not about catching on the way down. We're not there to actually put them at an injury risk that's unnecessary. They do enough of that with football and their contact training.
So if you were paying proper attention to that video, when you see Damien McKenzie and Richie jumping to the box, they were jumping up and then landing to the box. They weren't just jumping to the box. I think that's very important to pay attention to, because they're getting really high off the ground, really explosive. And when you are just doing box jumps, you can just cheat and jump up, but you're not actually getting high off the ground. You're just getting to the box. So did you want to explain that a bit more there, Ben?
Yeah, I think that's a really good pickup. And that's, the difference between, say, a good S&C program's jumping versus, say, you see a CrossFit or something. So the idea here is vertical displacement. So you want to get your center of gravity as high as you can. To do that, you've got to jump upwards. And how they're making sure that they do that, like you said, they're jumping up, over with straight legs and landing on the box. Okay, they're not lifting their legs up. So, they're not going to a step and then jumping their legs in the air to land on top of a step. They're actually going vertical, which is what we want. So people that didn't see that on the video, I pointed my finger up. That's the intent, vertical displacement. The only way to do that is the way that they were landing there. So it's a really good pickup from you.
You did see Artie jamming in the gym as well, and I think that's so important with the skills. As we saw with Bowden and Aaron, is just having a good time with the gym, having a good vibe, and you're there training with your teammates, trying to get better. And yeah, it's always fun and more enjoyable when you see the athletes, vibing.
Yeah, like the 7 divorce. I can't even say the word. But whistle when you work.
Yeah.
Not someone that had 7 divorces. Divorce. Yeah. There's serious pressure in the gym setting to actually be a good DJ. Like, guys take it very seriously, and you can cop a whole lot of grief if you're not providing good tunes. So anyone that's dancing and adding to the vibe is great, because they're working, but it should be enjoyable. For sure.
Totally. And in that small part we just watched then, and you're seeing more weighted pull-ups this time, and you saw, I think it was Damien or Bowden they were going pretty wide. That's very impressive to go wider and adding weight to your body. And that just doesn't come straight away. It's coming with consistent training over many, many years to be able to get that strong in that position.
Yeah, and you think of shoulder health, it's so important for football. So your push-pull ratio should be pretty similar. So a lot of people actually get carried away with overhead press and bench press. Your pulling is so important because it keeps that healthy shoulder ratio. And if you're in a contact sport, your shoulders are so important to you. So doing stuff like that, adds to your health. Also, there's research out there on tackle success. So the higher strength load that you've got in your pull-up, the better tackle success. And why is that? Because you've got good grip strength. So when you do make a tackle, you can anchor on and grip in. So that it carries over to your performance as well.
Totally. And again, you saw some more back squats, and you might get bored of doing back squats, but these boys don't. They do it really, really well, and then getting the most out of them and the best bang for their buck as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we probably didn't talk about the eccentric hamstring work done by Brody there before. So even the big guys are doing some hamstring work as well. Look, the choices of hamstring work will depend on their history and what they're used to doing. I found Nordics quite a quick way. It's hard to measure the intent because people might let go at different places, but they're working on their hamstring health, which is the important component. Again, we saw a bench press there, like amazing. A rugby player doing bench press, that happens all the time. But it's just cool that it's bread and butter as well. Moving on to, and I think you knew I'd had some words about the single leg plate snatch, which is a Bosch movement. And the idea of that is actually a hip lock. So to get that done well, you move from where the plate's next to your leg to over the top of your head really quickly. That's got to be done dynamically. So basically the plate has to go the shortest route to get there. And the idea is to actually pause above that box for about half a second. And that allows a thing called your hip lock. Your hip lock is basically the leg that's coming up that should be pausing, should be at the hip 3 to 5 centimeters higher. And that just creates this stability in the hip, so you're not losing, your pelvis moving downwards when you're in acceleration or sprinting. And that transfers over to having healthy hips, but actually better max velocity scores. So to truly do that well, it probably needs to be a little bit quicker, and you need that pause above the box. What have you got there, Kieren?
Oh yeah, and for people, that was the exercise Bowden Barrett was doing with the plate going overhead. And yep, totally agree. He's getting to the box first, where he needs to get up, then to the box. Same principle as a box jump. You're jumping up and then getting to the box. So yeah, that was the one Bowden Barrett was doing there. And TJ performing some power cleans again. Again, he's just doing a really good job for a rugby player. He doesn't need to be doing a great job like an Olympic weightlifter there. I think a really cool thing was Angus performing those barbell Bulgarians, and he was doing it really, really well and had some great weight. And then again, had the gym aware on there to track the velocity of that movement. And it's just good to see big guys doing some single leg movement, because it's not always double leg. And majority of the time out there on the field, we're doing a lot of single leg movements besides scrummaging or let's say a line out lift. So it's just great to see a different movement being performed, and it's a new stimulus as well. And you don't have to go as heavy compared to a back squat. You can go halve that weight and you're still going to get a really, really good adaptation. So how important is single leg work for rugby athletes, Ben?
Yeah, huge. Like if I had a default, I'd default a lot more to that versus the double leg. Like there are tasks where you need double leg. And you talk about stimulus. I've seen guys, get up to, when they're between 18 to 20, some guys getting up to 140 to 160 on Bulgarians for a few reps. So, you saw him there. I don't know, you couldn't work out the weight. It looked like 80. It could have been 120. And doing it well. And he had the gym aware on there to get intent. It's quite hard, having done it many times, having a gym aware on a Bulgarian. You get people actually leaving the ground sometimes. So setting that velocity at not too high is a little trick there for people if they're looking at doing that as well.
Totally. So now we've moved on to the Gold Coast. So we saw the athletes do very similar movements to the previous videos in two different gyms and two different time zones really as well. So we saw some good Nordics. We saw some bench press. And the big thing with the bench press there is I loved how the teammate was spotting. He had his hands hovering over the bar, ready to take it, but didn't take it because he knew his teammate would get it up. Whereas some people learning that how to spot in their early days will put their hands straight away and then help them up. And I count that as cheating a bit. And as you were the athlete, you're like, oh, why did you help me up? I had it. And yeah, just the only time you should touch the barbell is if it's going down the opposite way. So that's when you quickly grab onto it and help the athlete up. But it should be your teammate's responsibility to get that bar up with that weight.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really good. Like you said, we've seen multiple venues, and actually the venue that they're at, it's Jeremy Austin, or nicknamed Rookie in Gold Coast. So someone that I played footy with for a while. So better give a shout out to him up at the Gold Coast. And you can actually listen to him on radio and stand commentary as well. He does a Brisbane competition there. The real key is consistency. You see, they're doing this type of work everywhere they go and consistently, and not making excuses of different venues and stuff. And that's how professional rugby works. And my little thing about the single leg Bosch snatch, they probably filmed it as soon as the coach looked away, and they're probably doing it the right. And as soon as the coach looks away, they're doing the wrong thing again, slightly. But it's just, if you want to get better, you've got to do it consistently and try to have a decent effort. And you can see there's no lack of intent with what they're doing. And that's the key to get out of this: consistency and intent of the program, and doing it no matter where you go. Any other points from you?
Yeah, a couple of things with that video was, I think Tyrell was probably the perfect example of what I was explaining before with deadlift. He would reset, even if it's just a second, just reset, get turned, all those muscles on, he's really strong, and then bang, pushes the floor away and stands up tall, goes back down with the bar, resets again, gets strong, gets activated, and then pushes the ground away again to stand up nice and tall. I think that's a really good example of what I would consider the gold standard of doing a deadlift would be. So that was really cool. I love seeing the med ball throws. I think it's really important and probably underutilized in the gym, with no matter if it's a forward or a back, just doing some sort of throwing and having to generate from the force from the ground up and then punching that ball through. I think it's a great way to get stronger in the upper body there, more powerful, be able to pass, being able to defend. And again, it's a skill. It's something different for your athletes as well. And yeah, I loved seeing that exercise.
Yeah, and I think you've nailed it there. It's sequencing. So power is, it's not only a weight area. You've got a medicine ball there, but it's about sequencing that movement really quickly in a succinct way. So it is a skill and something that you should work on. And it's quite fun. If you want to see people get excited, have jumping and power stuff, it just lights their central nervous system up and they get excited. And it's, that's why we like this sport, because it is a very much a power orientated sport.
So we're going to leave it there with the videos, and would highly recommend you watching all 3 videos just by yourself and seeing how good these All Blacks move in the gym. They're moving well, they're moving with intent, and they're maximizing their time as well. And they're also doing some skills. As we stated before, they're doing some skills, doing some passing, but they're having a really good time as well. So, Ben, any final thoughts before we quickly wrap this up?
Yeah, I think a really good point that you mentioned earlier on is about their technique. Their technique is good. Okay, a lot of people actually start, when they're on the internet, start criticizing people about their technique. These guys aren't Olympic lifters. They're not power lifters. They're rugby players that lift and do these activities to aid their performance on their field. So, if you go to the gym and you only need to work on 5 to 6 things each week, you'll get really good at them. But they work on 5 to 6 lifts, and they've got plays and skills and meetings and tactics. They've got a lot of stuff that they're actually getting done each week. So a stable, safe technique is really good. Seeking perfect, go for it, but not at the loss of other activities that you need to do to become a rugby player.
Totally. So we'll leave it there. So thanks again for everyone watching this YouTube video. I hope we got a lot out of it, and drop us some words in the comments of what you thought. So thanks for watching, and thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Kieren. Really enjoyed that. It was good fun.